Shift happens, sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance. And when it does, you have two options. You can either cling to the life you've outgrown or step into the version of you that knows she's meant for more. I'm Gia Lacqua, trauma-informed empowerment coach and founder of Radical Prioritization. Welcome to What the Shift, the podcast for women who've outgrown the life they've built and are ready to create one that finally fits. Here we get real about the shifts that change everything: identity shifts, career pivots, relationship resets, mindset breakthroughs, and learning how to finally release what's holding you back. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just be ready for what's next. It's time to shift. If you feel like life is shifting, you're in the right place. I'm Gia Lacqua, and this is What the Shift. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to Kelsey Lensman. Kelsey is a sports medicine specialist, speaker, podcast host, and founder of Xpand Your Limits, a national movement that empowers women to break past their comfort zones through fitness, mindset, and community. She's the creator of Mission 48 nationwide campaign, where she completed 48 fitness events in 48 states in 48 days to raise support for young girls. Kelsey's work helps women build real earned confidence by doing hard things physically, mentally, and spiritually. Kelsey, so happy to have you join us today. Welcome to the show.
Gia, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited just to dig into everything that we're going to talk about today and just serve the audience here too.
Yeah, absolutely. So much to chat about. Just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better, tell us, you've done some incredible things, which we'll also dive into. Tell us, who is Kelsey aside from the roles, aside from the titles?
Yeah. Gia, I love this question because especially for those that are high performers and go-getters out there, we can have our identity wrapped up in what we do or what we lead. Or if you're a mama, I could imagine being a mama too. And those are identities that we love, right? But one thing that I have personally been digging into, even over the past year, is who am I without all of that? And that can be a scary question of, well, if I'm not an athlete or an entrepreneur or, what I identify with, who actually am I? And for me, faith's a big part of my life. And that is the foundation through everything that I do. It hasn't always been, but through uncovering my identity, it's, man, I'm already loved. I'm already accepted. I'm already everything without everything from the external. So who am I? I'm a child of God. Who am I? I'm somebody that loves on people, but also calls them up to that next level version of them. And I feel like we are placed here to call people up and to also just be the love and example for those around us. So I love this question, and it's not a simple answer, but that is something that I'm continually unpacking, but then also I think will evolve as I evolve. And I encourage those two to not get stuck in one identity, that it will evolve. And that's the beautiful part of life.
Oh, so beautifully stated. I love the way you frame that. That's so beautiful. So tell us a little bit more about Mission 48. Tell us about what it means to you, and how does it change the way kind of you see yourself and your mission to help others?
Oh man, I honestly thought it was just this crazy idea that I had that I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, Kels, this is left field, girl. Like, let it say in left field. And it was interesting, Gia, because I was leading a business with helping women and nutrition and fitness, and we were doing great work. But personally, I still felt like, man, like something not necessarily was missing, but something was off. And I felt that way even for a couple years where I was doing the work. I was, continuing to expand the business, but Kelsey, the human, wasn't growing as much as I yearned to grow personally. I was growing as the business leader and the CEO, but I felt like I was missing something personally for me. And so I remember I was sitting on my couch with my dog and we were watching this documentary. And it was this individual named James Lawrence. He goes by Iron Cowboy. And you think what I did is crazy. He's another level. He did 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. And I was like, just the entire journey from his really high moments of him coming back and finishing this epic event. But also what touched me a lot, Gia, was his really low moments of when he questioned, why am I doing this? When he questioned, like, what is this for? Like, he was doing it for a charity, but no matter what adventure you go on, there's going to be moments of doubt and of hesitation. And I remember sitting there after, and it was just this crazy idea that came in my brain and out. And I was like, well, what if, Kels, what if you could do 48 different fitness events from in whether it be Ironman to a powerlifting event to like just in the different fitness worlds. And it was originally going to be in 48 states in 48 weeks. And I was like, oh, cool. I could do a Spartan race on a Saturday and then speak at a school for young girls like on a Wednesday. Right.
Mm.
And then God laughed at me. He's like, yeah, you think that's the thought. It's not really the thought. So I sat with that what if. And I think many of us have that fleeting what if thought. And it doesn't mean chase that what if every single moment and every single time, but we don't give ourselves permission to really think, could this be a thing? It can sometimes feel so out there, so unrealistic that we don't allow ourselves to actually dream again. And we don't allow ourselves to pursue what that could be. And so it sat in my brain for about a year, and I would, put all my time and energy in the business and still feel this like burnt out, depleted. And all of a sudden, this idea would come up. And then I would listen to this podcast, and this idea would come up. And so it was just that I call it a nudge. It was just
Yeah.
that nudge that I could not ignore anymore. And I remember I was walking with my dog. He's like my buddy, but I was walking
Mhm.
my dog one evening, and I was just to the point of, okay, something has to give here. Like I have to figure something out. And that was the shift, right? And I remember I was just praying. I was like, God, send me a sign. Please, like, tell me what direction to go because this seems so crazy that to pursue it by myself, I like I don't think I can do it. But if it's of you, like lead me into this and please let me know that this is something that you have for me, not just a crazy idea that I have. And I've never had this happen before, Gia, but that next morning I woke up, I worked out like I normally work out, and I put on a podcast instead of music. And normally I just do music every morning. And I just scrolled, clicked the first one, and it was this individual that was interviewing this other person where he did this crazy epic fitness campaign for charity and like pushing what his limits are and just talking about literally the same thing of what I wanted to do, just in a different parallel uh arena that he had. And I remember I was mid back squat. I had a lot of weight on my back, and I'm like, I'm doing it. Like, I have no
Oh.
idea where I'm starting with this. I have no idea how to pull this off. There's no playbook for this crazy campaign. But, Kels, give yourself permission to go after it and
Mhm.
allow yourself to pursue it. And I'll just like anything, yeah, I'd imagine you do this too, is you get into it and you're like, what am I doing? How do
Mhm.
I do this? Where do
Yep.
I start? All the actual how do I pull this off comes. And some ways it definitely panned out to my vision, some ways it didn't. But what it did do, Gia, is it reignited my fire again. Like I felt that aliveness again for me personally. I had it then led me onto a different trajectory to my business and expanding there. And so for those that are listening to this story, and it's not just a Kelsey story, it's the nudges that you feel will lead you to where you're meant to be. You just need the courage to pursue them. And also it's in the right timing, right? If I would have done it off the rip, I don't think it would have planned out to the way that it did. And so lean into that timing of it, but also don't put it off just because you think it's realistic. So it changed a lot for me personally,
Wow.
but it also changed a lot for me business wise too.
Incredible. You just gave me chills. So I want to go back to this concept of the nudge because
Mhm,
something you said I think resonates with me and probably every woman listening, which is you get this, we call them crazy ideas
mhm,
in our head. And most often, like you said, there's an automatic dismissal
mhm,
of that's crazy, that's stupid, that's not smart, it's not responsible, I can't do that, I shouldn't do that.
mhm,
And then we go on to the next thing. And so I guess this is sort of a two-part question, but what did it take for you to listen to that crazy idea or that voice? I love how you
mhm.
also, talked to God and said, "Give me a sign if this is meant for me," right? And for the women who I think get those nudges and dismiss them, what do you wanna say to her?
That question is the ethos of the entire business that I run now. And it's called Expand Your Limits for a reason, where I think women more than anything, not dismissing men, but we just work with a lot with women, is we have this thought, this idea, this what if. Usually it started as a, oh, what if, right?
Mhm.
And then it's an automatic shutdown of, well, that's for her and not me. She can do it, but I can't. We automatically met with every limitation, why it dismisses us from going on that journey, and it allows them to do it because they just have something that we don't have, and that is the biggest lie that we could believe. And one thing that I have really taken from a lot of people that are doing some epic stuff in this world is they are just like you and me. I and originally, when I first started my business and was pursuing even my fitness journey, I thought that they just had something that I guess I just wasn't born with. Same thing with confidence. When I was growing up, I'm like, man, I wish I was that girl at the front of the classroom just owning it. And I guess she just was born something with that I'm not born with.
Yeah.
And it was this, instead of it something that I can build and grow into, it was, well, you have it and I don't. And so for that individual that has that nudge, first you need to give yourself permission to even allow yourself to dream again. Allow yourself to think bigger than what your current circumstance. Doesn't mean you need to pursue it off the rip, right? Maybe that just means write it down in a journal of, hey, if my reality, if I didn't have to live where I live, what would I want to do? And allow that nudge, or allow your thoughts just to go, just to brain dump. And it might surprise you that it's either really easy for you or honestly too really hard, because we just get into our routines and kind of
Mhm.
the monotony of how we live that we forget to dream again. So allow that first to go, but then also number 2, just observe what that thought is as soon as you think that what if thought. Because most, I would say 99.9% of the time, it's going to be some limitation. And this is why I think for me, it isn't so important for women to break a physical belief, because I've seen this time and time again is when they physically do something, whether it be a weight that they didn't know they could lift it. Oh, I never thought I could lift 30 pounds and I just did 35, right? Or it be a 5K that they didn't think they could do, or a half marathon. When you break a physical belief and you're like, well, my brain thought I could never do that, and I just did that.
Mm.
Well, what other area in my life am I limiting myself just because of that limitation that I have in my brain? And what I like to tell women is pull on from that bank of experiences, which is why we need to build them up. Of, well, I didn't think that I could back in the day step on a bodybuilding stage, but I did that. So maybe this crazy Mission 48 thing isn't so left field, and it's just my brain trying to talk me out of it.
Mhm.
Um, so I just want to encourage those of, listen into that nudge. Give yourself first permission to dream. And then secondly, you're not in your own little world if there's limitation comes up. That
Mhm.
happens to all this. There's doubt, there's fear, there's hesitation, but it also takes the pursuit of courage to work through that. And I think courage is the word there that we really want to hone in on, because the people that are doing some epic things, they still are fearful. They still are like, is this going to work out? They still
Yeah.
have the same feelings.
Yeah.
They're just doing it anyway,
They're
which is, I
pushing
think, the
through
key.
that fear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so interesting as you're saying that, what's coming up for me is like, what if instead of pushing through pain and exhaustion and overwhelm and burnout, we push through fear,
Mm. That's
right?
good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's so powerful. And I love, what you said about giving yourself permission, because we don't give ourselves permission. And your point is really good about, when the thought comes up, instead of an automatic dismissal, the flip side of that, I think a lot of us tend to have this dichotomous black and white thinking, like, oh, I
Mhm.
either have to dismiss it or I have to act on it. No,
Mm.
I love how you said pull the thread, right? Like write it down. You
Mhm.
don't have to do anything with it. Just but get curious,
Yeah.
reflect on it. And even if you don't have the time, like you said, write it down, come back to it, journal. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean you have to go and do the thing the next day. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of us fail to see that there's so many different shades of gray between the
Mhm.
extremes. And so, what's one step you can take to, is it having a conversation with somebody and say, "Hey, I had this really like wild idea." Whatever that is. And so I love the way you position that. I think it's a really important point. You also talk about confidence a lot in the work that you
Mhm.
do. I know you mentioned, I love the analogy of the girl in the classroom, the front of the class always raising
Mhm.
her hand. And we think, oh, she was born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline,
Yeah.
right, or whatever it is. Um,
Yep.
so you talk a lot about perceived confidence versus earned confidence.
Mhm. Mhm.
Talk to us about the difference and what you see in the women that you work with.
Mhm. I wanna go back real quick and touch
Yeah,
on, because you hit on a point where I'm like, "Oh, I feel like I'm meant to say this." So, when I was first starting Mission 48, first it was giving myself a permission to pursue,
yeah,
but at the same time, there's probably a lot of women that have a family. They're either building a business or they're a part of a business or they have a big part of their career. And I know for me, I couldn't just 180 everything that I was doing and say, okay, let me pursue this crazy Mission
Yeah.
48
Drop
idea
everything. Yeah.
and then forego it. And so what I did, this is I think the tactical, which is just as important as the mindset, is I said, okay, Kels, what you're gonna do is you are going to block out 2 hours every Wednesday. It wasn't even a full day, it was 2 hours, and you are going to make progress on your crazy big to do list and try to get 3 things done in those 2 hours. And what that did for me was it allowed myself to time block it on my calendar, but then it allowed me to actually pick up steam and say, okay, like, yeah, I am pursuing it, but it's also not completely 180ing me from what I need to do and serve our community too. So that's what I just wanted to kind of drop a seed to your
Mhm.
community is when you have that nudge or have that idea, maybe it's an hour a week, but time block it out because you're never going to get to it, quote unquote,
Right.
because it's not going to happen, but allow that to be on your calendar, and as maybe that thread becomes bigger, your time dedicated to it is bigger, but make it tactical in your calendar, which I
I
think is
love
helpful.
that. Make it a priority, make it tangible.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yep,
even
and
those
if it
small.
tanks too, it was 2 hours of my Wednesday, you know? And so it just I think that's helpful for those that are afraid of failure is you don't have to dedicate your whole life to it off the
Right.
rip, but you gotta dedicate something to it.
And just to add to that, it's a great point. Sometimes, like I've allowed myself now, in the last 5 years since I've been an entrepreneur, to follow some of those threads that do feel a little wild or
Mhm,
offbeat. And sometimes it doesn't lead me where I think, but sometimes it leads me
mhm,
somewhere else that I never anticipated. So it may not be whatever you think the outcome is, but
mhm,
maybe it'll lead you somewhere else. And so I think that's a
mm.
really great point.
Amen. I love it. I love it. Okay, so now the perceive versus earn
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk confidence.
I live in the fitness world is what, we help women with a lot. And what many times is mistaken is you start scrolling on Instagram and you see these girls with their certain poses and they got the body, they have everything external that you think, wow, they must just exude this confidence. And some of them might, I'm not going to discredit them, but also I know some of them where if you would look on their social, but then talk to them in person, it is like two different worlds, right? They look confident, but internally that confidence isn't there. And like I said, when I was growing up, I just thought of it as something external. Either once I get this body, then I'll be confident. Or once I get this thing, then I'll be on the mountaintop and I'll be there forever. And what I realized is this perceived confidence, that's something external. It's something that, oh, and I see that Instagram profile and they have all the things. Yes, they can seem confident, but that's a lot of times just perceived confidence. What I really like to dig into is earned confidence. And how I define confidence is you keep the promises that you make to you. That's how you build it at the end of the day. It's not this bank account, it's not this body, it's not this bag that you have. It is literally you keeping promises to you, and what you're going to realize is you earn that confidence within yourself, is you build that self-trust and it will exude out of you that when you walk into a room, you
Mhm.
don't have to pretend like you know it all. You don't have to pretend like you have this confidence. It just comes by you embodying you and you having that bank account of promises that you kept. And I'd like to share that with women specifically because you're not always going to keep those promises either. I'm not perfect. It's never going to happen. But whenever I'm starting to feel, man, I'm kind of doubting myself a lot here, or I don't have that same kind of swagger to myself, for a lack of a better way to say it. I'm like, well, have you been keeping promises, Kels? Nope. You said you were going to go to the gym and you didn't yesterday or today.
Yeah.
You said you were going to dedicate time to slow down or for me dig into the faith and you didn't. And so that allows you to understand it's something that is earned, not just given, and it's something that is available to every single one of us when it's promises that kept, and it makes it actionable versus this thing that we just want and desire once we get there, that I think is incredibly helpful.
I love that definition of confidence. That's
Amen.
very unique and powerful. So, what would you say, Kelsey, to the woman who is listening, who feels stuck,
Mhm.
insecure, afraid to take that first step towards growth and wants to feel confident?
Mhm.
What advice
Mm.
would you give her?
One thing that I have personally been leaning into a lot is the concept of micro shifts. And it's actually the book, there's a book called The Mountain Is You, and we're doing a book club on it right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and talks a lot about micro shifts, meaning what are the small little shifts compounded over time that is going to lead to not just the one day breakthrough, but it's going to lead to where you want to be. And I know for me, being a go getter, a high performer, a athlete, like I'm ready to go, baby. Like let's build the ship tomorrow and let's take her off. And I think anybody, but women specifically, we yearn for that change so quickly that we either want to 180 everything and then
Mhm.
we fall off 3 days from now, whether that be business or fitness or,
Yeah.
career life. But what I would tell them is, hey, what is one thing, one small thing? It might be drinking a big glass of water tomorrow morning. It might be taking a walk 15 minutes just for you. No podcasts, no
Mhm.
texting, just giving time to you, but you kept that promise to you. And I'll tell you this personally, you're going to think that it's not enough. You're going to think that's not going to lead Kels to the change that I want to see. And what I'm going to tell you is if before you made these radical shifts and you're back at the same spot that you were, that wasn't true change. That was intermittent change that didn't lead to a permanent change there. And so I'm going to challenge that woman to say, hey, do it scared, do it fearful anyway. You're not going to want to feel like you're going to do it. Motivation doesn't just come, we have to create momentum. However, do the small little 1% micro shift, compound it over time and do it really freaking well for weeks on end. And that will lead you to that next thing, to the next thing. And before you know it, you are going to change. You are going
Mhm.
to whether it be fitness or business, build whatever you want to. But start small and do it consistently well.
Such great advice, and you're right, we have this all or nothing mindset, like, it has to
Mhm.
be all tomorrow or it's nothing, or these I personally, from personal experience across the domains of my life over the years, when I try to make small shifts or changes or say, I'm just gonna do a little bit a day,
Yeah.
I get super frustrated with myself because
Uh-huh.
I hold myself to such a high standard,
Mhm.
right? That it's like, if I'm not seeing the results that I want in whatever area that is,
Mhm.
immediately I get super frustrated. And then that leads to a lack of consistency, which, as we both know,
Yeah.
is very important. So I love
Mhm.
that. Talk to us a little bit about the term strength. What does this
Mm.
word strength mean to you? Because obviously the work that you do, it's a very physical, but it's not just physical.
Mhm.
So talk to us about, what does strength mean to you now, after
Mm.
everything, as you reflect back on your own journey and the work that you do, and how has that evolved for you over time?
Oh, this is a question I could write a book about, I
Yeah,
imagine.
maybe you should.
If you would have asked me this like 10 years ago,
Yeah,
I would have first thought physical. Strength is how much weight you can move or
yeah,
the muscles that you see. Now, as I've pursued growth in so many different areas and I've seen this in so many women,
yeah.
strength is mental, strength is emotional, strength is spiritual, strength is physical. And strength is something that every single one of us can build and can be accessed.
Mhm.
And if there's a woman out there that doesn't feel strong, we've all had those moments. We've all had those and continue to have those moments of, man, I feel kind of weak right now, whether mentally or physically or emotionally. And don't allow yourself to beat yourself up for it. But girl, you have so much more strength inside of you than you could ever imagine. But also, when I think about strength, let's talk a gym, is muscle isn't built without resistance. Strength isn't built without me pulling a dumbbell that overcomes that bicep muscle and me going to rate when it wants to not go up and then I have to push it a little bit more. And same thing comes mentally, emotionally. And even for me, Gia, I'm in a season where I did some crazy events last year, pushed my body to another level. And strength right now looks for me like slowing down a little bit and
Mhm.
allowing myself to lean into the quiet and the vulnerable and the open. And that is just as much strength as it does for me to run a 100 miler and finish an ultra. And personally, for me, being a go getter, it
Yeah.
is just as
Yeah.
uncomfortable in allowing myself to have the strength internally to say, hey, you can chill out and slow down for a little bit, girl. You can not have to want to build everything tomorrow. And I personally got one of the best compliments in my life the other day, and it was just something that I was not expecting. Is she said, and it's not to blow me up, but it was just kind of embodying the thought. Is she said, "Kels, you are one of like kind of the most badass, toughest humans that I know, but you also have such a softness to you."
Mm.
And that was something that I just, like, took a moment to receive because for me, being an athlete and being an entrepreneur, I can push, girl. I can go, I can push. That is my even if it's uncomfortable, that's my comfort zone to a way.
Yeah.
For me to pause and to soften and to rely for me on God versus my own self-reliance, that's harder for me because I don't have
Mhm.
control with that.
Mhm.
And man, if I slow down, what does this mean? And it's just silly little beliefs that I have that aren't true, which is lies I'm believing. But to circle back to your question, strength is everything. And it's built through discomfort. It's not built through just you saying exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
And when we pursue that growth, oh, you're going to become a woman, you're going to become a girl that you've always meant to be. It's just the lies that we believe and the patterns that we develop by just trying to self-protect us ourselves at the end of the day.
So beautifully stated. And I love what you said. Strength doesn't come without resistance. I feel like
Mhm.
I need to make that a bumper sticker if it isn't already. I mean, that is
Hey, you can have it.
so profound. I love it. And so I love how you define it as the 360. Strength is everything.
Yeah,
And it's not just the hard strength, there's soft strength, there's
so good.
quiet strength. And I love that compliment. I think it's so beautiful. Now, you mentioned faith several times.
Yeah.
So I would love to just know, how has faith shaped your journey as a leader, as an athlete,
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur?
Oh, It it has been everything for me, but it always hasn't been. I kinda grew up going to church on Sundays, but just checking the box in
Sure.
a way, and
Mhm.
I had sports, so you would go some Sundays, not other Sundays,
Yeah.
faith or religion was something that I went to, it's not a relationship that I was in as much, and I definitely got away from it in college, it was not a thing for me, and I remember when I was in pursuit of my fitness, I was making a lot of strides there and, making improvements, but I still felt like something was missing. I'm like, "I'm getting a better body, but I still don't feel that fulfillment or that fullness that I thought I would feel from this other pursuit." And I thank God for just the kind of insight at that moment is because then I pursued my faith journey of, well, what does it mean to follow God? Like what is that? And I remember walking into the Barnes and Noble at Ohio State, because I went to Ohio State, and I went up to the religion section. I'm like, there's like 500 different versions of the Bible. I don't know, I don't know which one it is. And I'm not here to preach to anybody of you have to believe what I believe. It's just my journey. But throughout that journey is I have realized it's so much greater than me. And even over this year, last year went through a lot of personal change, personal growth, business growth, and I can have a tendency of just being Kelsey reliant. I have to figure this out. I have to muscle through. I have to do it. And it comes from also the athlete mentality, which can serve you because you're going to get stuff done to an extent. However, this is how I view it now is, Kels, it's God's business at the end of the day.
Mhm.
This is God's where I'm living right. This is God's. I'm just stewarding what he's already been giving you. And so to not partner with the guy and ask the guy what direction do you want me to go into and seeking out his guidance for the thing that's his anyway, man, it has given me this perspective shift of and pressure that I have to figure it out to, hey, you know what? In time, you steward it really well and you do the best that you can
Mhm.
and you seek his guidance and his knowledge and it will come.
Mhm.
And that for me, God reliance has been the hardest shift ever because I just want to get into work and dive in and I'll get the reps in. But taking a moment for me to pause and pray of like, all right, God, I want you to show me something today. Show me the charity that you want me to partner with for this event. Show me the people that you want me to bring into either this business or this event that we have. And it's crazy, Gia, the things that have come up by me just pausing and getting quiet and praying and seeking for him versus trying to muscle through my own self. It's been a game changer as a business owner. And then me also personally, um, we talk about identity to pull it back to the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
My identity was wrapped up in everything external: business owner, athlete, entrepreneur,
Yeah.
dog mom, like all those
Yeah.
things. And all those things can go away. It's not true. It's not
Doesn't define you.
steadfast,
Yeah.
right? When I started to really understand my identity in Jesus and in God, that doesn't break because he's never fails you. And he's never this one day and that the other. And that has allowed me to feel more grounded in myself, which you bring you to your business, you bring you to your relationships. And it's just this sense of peace that otherwise I've never felt before.
So powerful. Love that, Kelsey.
Thank
What
you.
would you say is the one shift that really changed everything for you?
The first thing that came to my brain was saying no.
Mm,
And Mm, there's been multiple phases, but 2 phases that pull up with this is when I was back in college days, is I was giving to everybody around me. I was doing clinicals, I was, getting the A's, like, I was externally doing everything top notch because that's what I did, right?
yeah.
And I remember waking up one day and I walked into my bathroom and I looked into the mirror and I was like, "Who are you?" Like, I didn't physically look like myself. I didn't have that fire. I like looked into my eyes, Gia, and I was like, "I don't even see you anymore." And I remember I dedicated that summer to just saying no. I said no to everything before I would have felt obligated to say yes to. I just said no to everything besides things that grew me as a person and that I could dedicate myself to. And that changed everything for me. It freed up time for me to grow my own self and allowed me to become the woman that I could be. And same thing, very similar season that I'm in right now is you want to say yes, girls, to everything. You have to prioritize you again. You have to get you good and prioritize what you need to. So I think that shift for me was just saying no, which said yes to me at the end of the day.
Absolutely, because every yes to someone else is in essence a no to yourself. And
Amen.
sometimes that's fine, but when it has to be that choice of, are you doing this in service or are you
Mhm.
doing it out of sacrifice?
That's good. That's good.
So I think it's so powerful and good for you for realizing it at such a young age, right? In your 20s in college, like a lot of us don't have that moment until we're in our 40s
Yeah.
and we look in the mirror and like, who the hell are we? So
Yeah.
I mean, being able to sort of quote unquote find yourself and your path, just at this stage is just incredible. So
I
um
appreciate that. It
yeah,
was it was a journey. I mean, it came from a really difficult time.
yeah,
It was my rock bottom, which can look different for different people. And I wanted to share too for those people is it was not easy. Like I think when people get to that point, they feel defeated and just down and discouraged, and I had to muscle my way through to build again. And for those that maybe are there and it's that person looking in the mirror right now, or for those that are in the process of going through
yeah.
that transformation, it is muddy and it is tough and it is
Messy. Yep.
not always fun. And there's
Yep.
days that you're gonna doubt and question and want to go back because that was comfortable even if I wasn't fulfilled. And so I just want to tell that person, like, just freaking keep going. Like, just wake up, put one foot in front of the other today. And that will get you to where you're meant to be. And don't expect it to feel good all the time. And that's okay. But it's worth walking through the mud because you become someone you never thought you could do. And that's an ever evolving journey in this thing called life.
Absolutely. Such great advice, Kelsey. Just before we wrap up, where can our
Yeah.
listeners find you and learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, well, I social media, I'm not a big social media fan, but I try to give value to it. Instagram is kind of our main thing and it's just at Kelsey Lensman, so that's my name. And then expandyourlimit.com is what our website is and we have a bunch of events coming up and would love to see anybody there.
So exciting. Kelsey, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your story, your insights, and your expertise.
Yeah.
It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and everybody listening, thank you for taking time, and, I'm gonna encourage you is just take one thing out of this podcast and take action on it. I was a podcast listener of all the things, I'm like, "Kels, what are you actually taking action on? Like, are you taking a step forward from listening to this?" And so I encourage them all of hopefully something hit home with you, and just put one foot in front of the other today and do something different to get different.
100%. Such great advice. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you next week. And as Kelsey said, go make shift happen. Take care. All right, Shifter, that's a wrap on today's episode of What the Shift. But here's the thing, awareness is just the first step. The real shift happens when you decide to do something with it. So before you go back to business as usual, ask yourself, what is one thing you are done carrying? What's one shift you're ready to make? And if this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, leave a review, and send it to a woman who needs to hear this because we shift together. Remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step. And I'll be right here next week, ready to shift with you. This is What the Shift, and we are just getting started.